Who Are You My Husband novel. Reading by Ms. Zhen. Chapter 2. Do you have 300,000? Seeing that he couldn't avoid Demelza, Stephen had to say nonchalantly, I have something to do. You have something? What is more important than Moana? Demelza snorted coldly. She just had a closed-door meal at the Electron Plaza, and she was in a bad mood, so she just took Stephen to vent her anger. Brother-in-law, my sister has to go to work and take care of Moana, but you come here to play, are you still a man? My sister-in-law Hazel looked at Stephen with disgust. Stephen discovered Hazel at this time, and there was a young man beside Hazel. This young man is called Mark, Hazel's college classmate. Hazel, is this your rubbish brother-in-law? Your sister's eyesight is not good, this guy looks no different from a migrant worker. Mark looked at Stephen, with a touch of joke in his eyes. Demelza is the deputy sales director of Brand Pharma. She talked about a big business with the Matrix Heights group, but there was no progress. Mark said that he knew the general manager of Electron Group, so he brought Demelza to visit the general manager here, hoping to help Demelza win this business. It's just that the general manager doesn't give him face at all, so he is also very shameless. At this moment, seeing Hazel and her mother scouting Stephen, he was also ready to step on both feet. No, I don't know what is wrong with my sister. She is willing to marry such a waste. The most important thing is that this waste is not responsible at all. Hazel sarcastically said. Men can have no money for a while, but they must be responsible. Mark smiled. Stephen glanced at the three of them, didn't say anything, turned around and walked towards the Electron Plaza. What are you going to do? Why don't you go back and take care of Moana? Seeing Stephen walking inside, Demelza frowned and scolded. I went to find Thomas a little troublesome. Stephen said back. What? Are you looking for the richest man in Lu? Are you going to be chased out like a dog? When Demelza heard it, she was furious, and she reached out and grabbed Stephen. Stephen is just a little security guard. He was blasted out by others, but she lost the face of her mother-in-law. Mom, let go, I really have something to do with Thomas. Stephen frowned and said when Demelza held him back. Are you trying to laugh at someone? Thomas is the richest man in St. David City. What qualifications do you have to see others as a security guard? Hazel sneered. You can't say that, maybe your brother-in-law thinks that they are all surnamed Lu, maybe they were still a family 500 years ago. Mark laughed. Stephen was a little angry, and said to his heart, did you take gunpowder today, or are you all menopause? However, he was not very angry with Demelza, so he had to take out his mobile phone to call Thomas and let him come down to see him. At this moment, a sexy woman with a graceful figure in uniform came over. Seeing the beauty coming, Demelza let go of Stephen, with a trace of doubt on her face. It is President Thomas's full-time secretary. Hazel said. Maybe they have changed their attitude, and they are here to tell us to go back to talk, Aunt Demelza, congratulations on taking this big deal soon. Mark's eyes lit up and complimented. Is it really coming to talk to us? Demelza couldn't believe it, but there was a look of excitement on her face. It must be. There are only a few of us here, and we have just talked to them. It must have come to us. Mark nodded affirmatively. We didn't reach a conclusion with Manager Wang before, but Mr. Lu's full-time secretary came to us. Mr. Lu must have personally instructed him. Mom, it seems that your big cause is really going to be done. Hazel is also a little excited. If this business is negotiated, her mother will have more than 200,000 shares. Demelza is right to think about it. President Thomas's secretary must have come to them. It is impossible to come to Stephen, this trash. Thinking about this, Demelza greeted him with a smile. Hello, you are here. Before Demelza finished speaking, her smile froze on her face. I saw that the beautiful secretary ignored her, just walked past her and walked to Stephen. She saluted Stephen slightly and said sweetly, Mr. Stephen, please come with me. Stephen nodded, looking across the faces of Hazel and Mark. Then followed the beautiful secretary into the building. Leaving Demelza and the three people on the spot, They looked surprised and confused. Stephen and Thomas talked for a while. He still didn't want to inherit the family property. 10 years ago, because of his father George's negligence, his mother was indirectly killed. He still has it's hard to let go, and I can't forgive his father in my heart. But if he didn't sign the contract, Thomas would not lend him money or let Stephen call George. Stephen sighed helplessly, had to sign, then asked Thomas to help him find the bone marrow that matched Moana, and asked Thomas to give him 300,000 first, and then left the Matrix Heights building with the 300,000. As for how Thomas told his father about it after he left, he no longer wanted to know. Anyway, as long as he doesn't take the initiative to call his dad, he knows that his dad will not take the initiative to call him. Even if he agreed to go back and inherit the family property, he didn't plan to forgive George so soon. Back at the hospital, Stephen saw that David had come back. Not only that, he and Olivia sat on the bedside to chat with his daughter who woke up. David is very close to Olivia, and the two of them are still talking from time to time. Stephen narrowed his eyes slightly and strode into the ward. He just wanted to say that he had already got the money, and that Olivia would not be allowed to have a hard time in the future, so Olivia looked at him with a cold face. "Stephen, where did you go?" "Just now, the hospital came to urge the cost of the medicine again. If Director David hadn't paid it first, Moana would have been kicked out." Seeing Stephen came back, Olivia would not be angry. "Come in one place." She looked at Stephen with disappointment in her eyes. At this time, Stephen even ran out for the poor self-esteem and her anger, not even his daughter, because he fell in love with such a man in the first place, really blind. "Mom, don't talk about Dad, Dad is also very hard." Seeing her parents are about to quarrel again, Moana said groaningly. Stephen was a little angry at first, but when he heard his daughter's words, the anger in his eyes disappeared instantly. He squatted down and touched Moana's head fondly, and said with a slight smile, "Moana, good dad, I don't work hard. In a few days Dad will find the bone marrow that matches you, and our cute little Moana will be able to recover and be discharged from the hospital." "Dad, is what you said true?" Moana asked happily. "Tau. Well, Dad never lied to you." Stephen nodded firmly. "Great, Moana can finally be discharged from the hospital. Mom, look, I said that my father is a capable person, I didn't lie to you." Moana smiled happily, looking at Olivia. Olivia also smiled. Although she knew that Stephen was coaxing her daughter to be happy, she wouldn't let her down. Just looking at Stephen's peripheral vision is very unkind. Moana is very smart. After waiting for a few days, Stephen will not be able to fulfill his promise. Moana must be very disappointed. That's something Olivia doesn't want to see. Yijun, don't care, it may be that Stephen went out to borrow money and didn't borrow it, and didn't want to disappoint Moana. David said deliberately. Stephen slowly stood up when he heard the words, a cold light flashed in his eyes looking at David. "Don't worry, although you didn't borrow the money, I have already paid Moana's medical expenses for you. After all, Moana also called my uncle just now." David looked at Stephen with a sneer. Unabashed contempt. "Stephen, what are you doing? If Director David handed over the £300,000 for us, Moana and I would be kicked out of the hospital. Don't hurry up and apologize to Director David." Seeing Stephen's face, Frosty stared at David. Olivia frowned and scolded. "Why should I apologize to him? Isn't it 300,000 I have?" Stephen snorted coldly. "Do you have 300,000? David laughed, his eyes becoming more ridiculous. Stephen is just a small security guard at the company, so he doesn't believe anyone dares to lend him so much money. Olivia's face was frosty, and the gaze staring at Stephen became more and more disgusted.